Hey there, it's John from Living the Music. Time flies, and when you get older, time flies really fast. Somehow it's occurred to me that we are a quarter of a century into the 21st century. Amazing. So I think this is as good a time as any to do a video on my top 10 albums of the 21st century. Now, this is really more than anything a kind of an invitation for anybody watching to think about your list. Think about the 10 albums or handful of albums that have meant the most to you in the last 25 years. Ultimately, my list comes down to my preferences, and it's really a matter of what I enjoy the most, what I tend to listen to the most, and what I enjoy the most. There's some albums that didn't quite make my cut that are in my honorable mentions. I know they're very good. I know objectively they're very good. It's just for whatever reason, they're not as favorite for me as my top 10. So without further ado, let's get to my top 10. And we're going to start with The Dirty South by the Drive-By Truckers. The Dirty South by the Drive-By Truckers. Now, this came out in 2004. It's interesting. I only just came to this, I think, last year. I don't even remember what put me on to them. Not that I hadn't heard of them, but I just hadn't really looked into them very much. But for whatever reason, maybe I read a review, and this was a re-release of the album, and I think they added some songs that weren't on the original, and they changed some of the order of the album to fit the way the main songwriter wants it to be. So anyway, having listened to this now several times, and I've seen them live too, definitely fantastic freaking album. Great songwriting. What an abundance of talent in this band. So they have three incredible songwriters. You got Mike Cooley, Patterson Hood, and Jason Isbell, who of course now is a very successful solo artist. So they all write songs on this, and start to finish, they're all fantastic. This is southern rock, I suppose you could say, but it gets quiet and contemplative as well. The lyrics are uniformly excellent. There's an emotional resonance to most of the material on here. My favorite song on here is Lookout Mountain by Patterson Hood. I just dig that tune, man. It really packs a punch. All right, my number 9 of my top 10 albums of the 21st century, we're going to go with Memory Almost Full by Paul McCartney. Now, those who know me, and if you look into my channel, you'll see I'm quite a big Paul McCartney fan, so this shouldn't come as too much of a shock, although you would think he's far past his prime by this point, but this 2007 album is quite good, according to me. His 2005 album, called Chaos and Creation in the Backyard, is the one that really got acclaim by the critics, and I think it sold pretty well also. But that one he did with Nigel Godrich producing it. It is very good too. Great songwriting. It's a little bit somber and quiet in its overall feel. This one I just have more fun with, so I end up enjoying this one a little bit more. He plays all the instruments on some of the tracks. For others, he has his touring band on it, and it's got a great combination of rockers and mid-tempo and ballads. My favorite is Vintage Clothes. All right, moving along to number 8 of my top 10 albums of the 21st century. We're going to go with The Forgotten Arm by Amy Mann. This came out in 2005. I'm a big Amy Mann fan. I think I got into her from the movie Magnolia. She wrote the soundtrack for that, essentially. I think the story goes that she had the songs already going, and then the director sort of wrote the movie based on the themes that she brought out in her songs. So Magnolia, the album, is fantastic, but I'm going with this one as as my number 8 here in the 21st century. This one, it's a concept album. It's about a boxer and his girlfriend. It deals with drug abuse and self-esteem issues, relationship issues. It's typical Amy. I think she mentioned that on this album she wanted to use pretty much all the same musicians on every song, so it would have somewhat of a uniform feel to it, and it definitely does. So this is great, start to finish. It's got her trademark lyrics. It's a winner, no doubt. My favorite on this is a beautiful song called "This Is How I Knew This Story Would Break My Heart." Going to number 7, we're going to go with Wilco, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Excuse me, I always have trouble with that. So this came out in 2001. Objectively, this probably should be higher in terms of artistic achievement. This is, again, one of those, I love it. It's in my top 10. But I guess I'm just trying to rationalize why it's not higher. It just doesn't quite have the enjoyment factor of the ones that come above it. But this is a tremendous artistic achievement, as I say, with the late great Jade Bennett co-writing most of the songs with, I'm blanking on his name, Jeff Tweedy, of course, Jeff Tweedy, and they famously had a falling out in the making of this album or shortly after this album, and there was all kinds of drama in the release of this with record companies, problems with the record company. There's a lot of drama swirling around this album, you could say. Whatever was going on in the studio, it worked. They came together as a team somehow. Jeff was dealing with drug addiction at the time. Difficult album to make, probably. The songwriting is very strong, and the production of it is fantastic, with all kinds of interesting layered sounds going on. And anyway, my favorite on this is the most obvious one, but it's the one I always like the best from this, Jesus, etc. Number 6, we're going with Despite Our Differences by the Indigo Girls. This probably comes as a shock to most people, but I love the Indigo Girls, and this isn't probably their most highly acclaimed albums. I think they're most noted critically for their first couple albums. But this, when did this come out? 2006. This is a very strong Indigo Girls album. The two gals, Emily and Amy, they really pulled together. Every song is a winner. It's a great blend of the two styles. Great production by Mitchell Froom. My favorite Indigo Girl album of them all. And my favorite song on here is an Amy song. It's called 3 County Highway. Number 5. We're going to go with Sea Change by Beck. This objectively probably would be on a lot of people's lists. So this came out in 2002. Beck, he's had lots of different styles. This was his first foray into, let's say, pure singer-songwriter, acoustic based. He's got Nigel Godrich on production, and they provide a soundscape, a certain kind of beautiful sheen over this music that just works wonders. And Beck's at the top of his game in his songwriting, his singing, excellent. He came back to this style with Morning Phase some years later, which is, you could say, just as good, if not better. But this one has a special place in my heart, so I'm going with this one. And my favorite song, again, it's the most obvious one, but I love that song, Lost Cause. Number 4, we're going with Tori Amos. Yeah, I'm a huge Tori fan. Again, this isn't her most acclaimed work. People would probably point to her debut, Little Earthquakes, or her second album, Under the Pink, or her third album, Boys for Pele. But this is my favorite, and it's spectacular. Now, this came out 2002, I want to say. Yeah, 2002. And this more or less is her response to the 9/11 attack on the United States. This is a concept album, a road trip album. There's a lot of different characters in here. I'm not sure I follow the whole story, to tell you the truth, but I love all the songs. Her songwriting's at the top of its form. Her performance is excellent as usual. I love it. My favorite song in here is called Pancake. Number 3, we're going to go with The Suburbs by Arcade Fire. They probably get most acclaim for their album Funeral, but I like this one even better. This did win Album of the Year in the Grammys, for whatever that's worth. And Win and the guys and gals, they produced something really powerful here. This again is a concept album. It's about the suburbs, about life in the suburbs. It's kind of looking back on a lost time when maybe kids still had a feeling of innocence and hope for freedom in their lives. And Win is looking back on that and hoping and maybe trying to bring about a way that we can get back to that. Every song is great. It flows excellent. And my favorite song on here is We Used to Wait. Number 2, I Love You Honey Bear, Father John Misty. I've only come to know about him in the last few years. My son turned me on to him. This is something. This is a spectacular album. I never quite heard anything like this when I first heard this. In a sense, it's just, you could say it's singer-songwriter type material with maybe some extra bombast and drama to it in some ways. He's got his own unique lyrical style, quite all over the place. You know, he uses very strange and unexpected references, and he's can be sarcastic at times, but he's very smart. I mean, he keeps you on your toes here as you're listening to this. So I've just become a huge fan of this guy ever since I first heard this, and I love it start to finish. While I could pick many tracks, I think I still got to go with the title track as my top favorite from this. And number 1, we're gonna go with The Monitor by Titus Andronicus. I don't know how surprising this is, but there you go. If you haven't heard of this album, I highly recommend it. I would say it's relatively famous in indie rock circles. This is a combination of punk, but also folk, if you can believe it. It's like folk punk. The main inspiration of this is a guy named Patrick Stickles. He's from New Jersey. This was Titus's second album, and let's just say he stepped up his game, and he's never quite reached these heights again, which is understandable. This is an absolute knockout. Of course, it's my number 1, but like every song is a banger. I mean, you just listen to this, and you can't, or at least I can't believe what I'm hearing. I'm stunned by how awesome this is. The wordplay, the emotionality, the catchiness, the drive, the power of it. It just has it all going on. It keeps you, it keeps you interested throughout. He brings in different guests from, his indie rock relationships. He brings his drinking buddies in on a song or two. One way or another, he pulled it together. He and his producer friend, and he produced, I think, a masterpiece. So my number 1 is The Monitor by Titus Andronicus. This came out in 2010. And although I could pick every song on here as my favorite, I'm going to go with the song called Theme from Cheers. All right, so just to go through my top 10 again, we got The Dirty South by Drive-By Truckers at number 10. Number 9, we got Memory Almost Full by Paul McCartney. We got number 8, The Forgotten Arm by Amy Mann. Number 7, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot by Wilco. Number 6, Despite Our Differences by the Indigo Girls. Number 5, Sea Change by Beck. 4, Scarlet's Walk by Tori Amos. 3, The Suburbs, Arcade Fire. 2, I Love You Honey Bear, Father John Misty. And number 1, The Monitor by Titus Andronicus. So there you have it. That's my top 10. I'd love to hear yours. Put it in the comments below. If you can't come up with 10, give us your handful or a few that you think are really strong. I'd love to be turned on to new music, and I know others would too. So if you got a minute, plop that in the comments. Please like this video. It'll help us spread the word to more people. Please subscribe. So again, I can build this channel and get my message out to as many people as possible. We're all about having fun with music. We bring in a little bit of philosophy at times. We're looking for life lessons in music sometimes. Sometimes like this, we're just doing top 10s and creating conversation. So hopefully some of what we do, if not all of it, is attractive to you. Love to have you aboard. Again, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. And until the next video, take care.